r/ask Reddit. Teachers of Reddit, what are some positive trends you have noticed in today's youth? Say what you will about Fortnite, but kids thank the bus driver now way more than they used to. As a health prof, students tend to be drinking a lot more water than when I was at school. Probably around 80% of kids tend to have water bottles, I've noticed now. During my time in school they wouldn't let us have water bottles or any kind of drink in class. When kids actually commit to something they are extremely resourceful. I feel like it's being raised with the internet at their fingertips. My daughter is 4 and her preschool is teaching her Spanish at home. When she wants to know the Spanish word for something, she asks me to Google it on my phone. It's so crazy. I teach 2nd grade. They are much kinder and they are much better readers than kids even 10 years ago. Kinder, absolutely. My 2nd grader accidentally peed before he had pulled his pants all the way down. Went to the bathroom too late. He was mortified to go back to class and was crying while the teacher was looking for something he could wrap around himself. A boy stood behind him to block the sight of his wet clothes. Another boy stood in front of him, and a 3rd boy told him that happened to me once in kindergarten. I was embarrassed too. A single child laughed. When I was in 2nd grade, I can guarantee that everyone would have laughed at me for days or weeks. Being kinder to animals. Jerks I grew up with used to hit strays with stones and sticks. True, I see this trend even with bugs. I have a lot of kids try to keep or save ants or other bugs they find in the classroom rather than immediately decimate it. Although I will say I've also had kids eat the ants they find because they heard somewhere that ants taste kinda good. They reported back to me that the ants were spicy and that it felt as though the ant was crawling around inside their throat and then stomach. Gotta love middle school. We found out my daughter was self-harming and had suicidal ideations because her friends spoke up and asked the school counselor for help for their friend. I have noticed that my freshmen, for the most part, tend to be very open, I guess is the right word. They seem to readily share their thoughts, ideas, problems, etc. with each other. They put each other's thumb fingerprints in their phones, readily share them, and don't really have anything to hide. They are also super honest and upfront with me. I don't know if this is truly going to turn out to be a positive thing in the long run, but their expectations of privacy are very different than mine. I think it is an offshoot of social media culture. Yep, my 5th graders last year were extremely open too. It was actually really odd at first, then refreshing. They'd be open to the whole class when they got their period, so the boys never seemed fazed by it, or if they were depressed, anxious. They were very honest about everything and did not seem to hide or lie about anything going on at home. Many students openly talked about wanting to die, hurting themselves, which sucked, but at least made me able to try to get them help. I love how open they are, but unfortunately they're growing up way too early. 2 10-year-olds shouldn't be wanting to kill themselves. Art teacher here. My 6-year-old students are really good with encouraging statements, absolutely unprompted by us. We were working with Clay, and the shyest girl, who had never spoken once, said, "Wow Riley, you did a great job on your bunny. It looks beautiful." Or when a girl cried because hers broke, a student said, "Don't worry Coco, you can repair it. It'll be okay." Just very kind things like that. You wouldn't believe a 6-year-old would have the selflessness to say. I think if you watched some of the shows they watch, especially at that age, you'd find that they're mirroring things they've watched. Shows like Peppa Pig and Paw Patrol are full of examples like this for them to learn from. Daniel Tiger for the win. I remember back in grades 1-5 I always saw people thanking the janitor. My dad would always tell me how that never happened back in his day. In high school we had one janitor, and that janitor loved everyone. In turn we loved him back. We found out his wife got cancer and he had to take vacation to stay with his wife. The students pressured the board to give him more vacation, and the students raised about $5,000 for him too. This is probably going to get lost, but I teach emotionally disturbed kids who can't attend mainstream high school because of their behavior. These are kids that treat the majority of the people that they interact with like shit. They use slurs and swear and can just be all round horrible to each other. We have one kid who's full on autistic, but the parents refuse to have him diagnosed, so he's with us, not in an autism unit. They don't say a word to him. They listen to him rant about chickens and rabbits and even ask him questions about it. It's so bizarre to see kids frothing at the mouth and calling me a ducking dunt and then gently redirecting the autistic kid away. They're so much more accepting of disabilities than my gen was. It's great. They're more pragmatic about the choices they make, taking measures to reduce the amount of student debt they are going to accrue. They are also much more accepting of people of other cultures. Much less discrimination, it seems. Kids are incredibly intelligent. Because of the internet they have now, they can learn about anything whenever and quickly. They also learn more because parenting is improved, teaching is improved, and so they have so much more research on what they're doing that they become more efficient. The resumes I see from high school students are better than what I had graduating from college. I'd also second that they are much kinder. Some of the things I overhear flabbergast me with how different things are from when I was in high school 18 years ago. As someone who works with a lot of interns and hires a lot of new grads, I second this. College kids are so remarkable nowadays. It continues to amaze me. They are so intelligent, hardworking, and driven to learn that I couldn't imagine my college self from 15 years ago surviving in today's world. Makes me feel great about the future. I'm drill instructor, fire department. I work for a career department, so the 18-19 year recruits I get aren't customers providing revenue by paying to be there. They're paid to be there and can be fired. It's a lot like the military. Our academy was built around Paris Island's doctrine by a couple former Marine DIs. A decade ago this was used to take advantage of them. Badly. These days the wet behind the ears new high school grads are so incredibly, remarkably intelligent. Gone are the days where a recruit will blindly accept information. Now I have yet to have a recruit contradict a direct order, but in the presentation of information they will ask pertinent questions that absolutely keep us instructors accountable. And if I don't know the answer, oftentimes they will get on the internet and figure it out and bring it to me. Or they will bring several different possible answers to their questions and bring them to me for clarification. They also won't take injustice. In the fire service there is a long-standing rift between the old guard and the new. One former recruit was incorrectly disciplined for something he did not do, and it was proven as such. Unfortunately for him, his company officer and battalion officer were part of that old guard. Each emphatically urged him to take the discipline a formal write-up, plus exclusion from the pertaining activity for 12 months, to not rock the boat since you're new. Obviously he didn't. He fought it and won. But the old guard slandered his name and dismissed him as one of those disrespectful, self-centered millennials. Thankfully that mentality seems to be here to stay, as I see it more and more with every recruit class that comes through. The old ways of blatant injustice mislabeled as how we did it or respect are disappearing. Kids care about the environment, which is more than can be said for a lot of their parents. The trash tag posts are wonderful to see. We need more of that. I do sex ed for 14-16 year olds. They always ask how to satisfy the opposite sex and seem less selfish. Probably because TV and movies have made the joke about the unsatisfied spouse for like 30 years. Kids today are much more open with their feelings. I hear "I love you" so much more. Not between kids in relationships, but between friends. No matter the genders. It's an amazing and heartwarming thing to see here. My friend recently graduated while I'm still a high schooler, and we were typing one day and she ended the conversation with "I gotta go. Love you." And I'm not the type to hug a friend, but I damn near cried at that "love you." I wasn't sure if we could keep in contact with her in college, but I'm more confident now. It seems to me that students today are increasingly more aware, curious, and resourceful. Everything from climate change to science, from the arts to socio-political considerations. They question things more directly and are adept at exploring and finding answers as they adroitly navigate the internet. Imagine growing up and anything that interested you just look it up, is making for very smart kids. 95% of the things kids used to get bullied for 10 years ago are now largely accepted. When I was at school, the biggest bully used to abuse the nerds while actually boasting that he didn't even know how to turn a computer on. I'd say they're better at forming their own opinions on issues and morals, which I would largely attribute to their access to the internet and thus getting to see and hear a wider variety of viewpoints. I remember when it used to be that my dad likes Bush so I like Bush kind of thing, but now I hear kids have actually individual viewpoints and intelligent conversations about world issues. Plus, I feel like they're more open and honest. It's not uncommon for kids to tell me how they're feeling or what's going on with them in their personal lives or what they think of what's going on with the class or me. Usually all of this without any prompting. It helps me adjust to what they need and feel and want, and also just helps us build that bond. When I was their age, 7th grade, I was a steel trap when it came to talking to teachers about what was going on with me, and pretty much all my peers were the same. I totally relate. I once accidentally called my teacher mom and I still shudder when I recall that. They're more aware of the general goings on in the world and have a strong sense of justice. Along with that, as others have mentioned in this thread, they are more accepting of differences. The bully victim trope is less of a thing now, where I am, at least, and kids usually love and let live. The flip side of this is that a lot of kids are getting faulty information and a lot of them carry fairly shocking, uninformed opinions because of what they've heard or read on the internet. Yep, this second paragraph is sadly very true. I will also say that it's true of many adults as well though, lol. As a university history professor, I've noticed that even first year students are more willing to express countering opinions and views. There are far fewer who just regurgitate my lectures and instead offer counterpoints and disagreement, which is an amazing trend for academic debate. It wasn't until graduate work that I really felt comfortable disagreeing with an assigned reading or a professor, and the level of understanding needed to synthesize your own counter-argument is much higher than simple memorization. Edit. Because it's been mentioned multiple times, I'm referring to well-reasoned disagreement, not flat earth conspiracies. In my class I often assign multiple readings on a single topic to showcase varying views, and in discussion and written responses I am encouraged to see students who are willing to state to a professor why they disagree with writer A, and to explain their reasoning. Occasionally I even throw in a trap reading. For example, an editorial written by a radical Zionist when discussing mandatory Palestine, and I take special note of students who comment directly that the source is less credible because they took it upon themselves to look up the author and discovered their bias. To me, rote memorization of dates is largely useless, which is to say that I teach towards comprehension. For instance, I do not care that a student can from memory tell me that the Battle of Stalingrad ended on the 2nd of February 1943, but rather that they can explain why the result of that battle was so influential in the eventual outcome of the larger war, with extra points if they can point to ways it contributed to the establishment of the Iron Curtain and the Soviet influence in Eastern Europe after the war. Definitely more accepting and open of LGBT friends, family, and celebrities. A lot of the middle schoolers I've worked with in the last few years are actively confused by the way so many adults make a huge deal out of it. When I was teaching, a student asked me if I was married. I said no. Then he asked if I had a boyfriend or girlfriend. The fact that he presented both options made me realize I was interacting with a very different generation. As everyone else has said, kids' empathies are through the roof. They're more connected to each other, and while that can cause problems and bullying, a lot of which we can't see, for example, Snapchat, it also means they genuinely know each other better, something we've also focused on, which has changed from even 4 or 5 years ago, is their health and level of stress. While they still want to get into a good college at my school, they're starting to focus on finding the right school for them, which very rarely is an Ivy. I commend them a ton, because I still have that elitism bias, but I'm working on it. Also, kids are more outspoken about their identity. The number of trans kids at my small school seems high, but is really the appropriate size for the grade level. According to average statistics, we're offering training next year to all of our seniors to lead discussions on race, bias, inequality, etc., because they demanded that we do so. I love that they're willing to advocate for themselves and what they need. It makes my job so much rewarding when I know we're providing what they need. Boys feeling free to show affection towards each other and being more intimate and physical in their interactions makes the boys happier and contributes to an overall better classroom environment. Acceptance is definitely the biggest one. I teach 8th grade and had a transgender boy who came out over the summer. One of the most popular boys in school and him formed an incredible friendship and even dressed as each other one day for fun. The really popular kid is a preppy jock and the other boy is totally punk rock. And this is just one story of many. Yes, there are still those a-hole kids who target anyone who is different, but they're now in the minority. Not a teacher, but I've noticed a thing going around my school that the whole class tends to band together and become like a family. Also, if a random person, whether child, teacher or even parent, harasses one of them, they kinda band and attack the person, usually with words and death threats for the kids. I do teacher aid work for K2nd grade, and man, Fortnite is so popular with the kids. I used to hate hearing about Fortnite every day, until I realized that everyone was excited about Fortnite. The children didn't discriminate when they were excited. Boys and girls and students of color all would floss together. They have something to unite them. Where I didn't feel this way when I was in elementary school. I learned to allow children to be children. Kids are more technology and research savvy. They're more practical in their goals but really aren't afraid to take risks. I appreciate that. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.